Good morning. I had some crazy dreams this morning. The first dream was so scary that it really freaked me out. And I had to, oh no, no voice. I had to sleep with the lights on afterwards. So in this dream, I I was in my bed. I woke up and I was just getting into my bed and I looked down and my lover was making a bed like on the floor next to me. But it wasn't my lover. It was my lover's ex. But for some reason, they had the face of my lover. And I like wasn't acknowledging this, and I was like shaking my head like, what is wrong with me? And I didn't want to be rude and tell him to fuck off, but I was definitely like, you're not gonna fucking sleep next to me. In real life, we're all friends and it's fine, and that wouldn't have been a strange thing for them to come and stay the night or whatever. But excuse me. We have a guest room, so there's no reason for someone to sleep on the floor next to my bed. And I said, hey, I just want to sleep by myself. I want you to go sleep in the guest room. And they kept like making excuses and then like kind of making small talk. And I felt really awkward, so I was making small talk with them. And this person in real waking life also used to work at this essential oil place. And since the coronavirus is happening right now, I was kind of making a joke, and I said something like, oh man, if you still worked at this place, now would be a really good time to smuggle a bunch of antiviral essential oils out, and you could really make a killing on the black market. Ha ha ha. And they were just like, the whole time they were really staring at me intensely, unblinkingly. It was really creepy. And then they got some essential oils out and really clumsily like spilled them everywhere. They were trying to like put some on me, and then they took my ankle and tried to massage it the same way that my lover does. And I was like, no, dude, fuck off. And then I was like, that's it. Like, let go of me, get away from me, go, leave now. And I had to be really firm and be like, fuck off, go sleep in the other room. And so they finally gathered their blankets and they left, and they like looked at me over their shoulder just before they went through the doorway. It was fucking chilling. And then just a second after they left, I was laying in my bed in the dream. And I was just so disturbed by the fact that they were wearing my lover's face, and I was just like, okay, I can't take this anymore. I've got to go and fuck politeness, screw all that. I got to go and just find out who this is and why they're doing this, and like what's wrong, where's my lover, what's happening. And also throughout this interaction, the person got kind of like their skin got more bluish gray and older looking, and they just got more and more terrifying looking, and their eyes were like just a little bit too big. So scary. And so I get up, go to the other room, and I open the door, and I'm like, okay, who the fuck are you? And they're sitting in the bed that was all made, and they're sitting like this with their hands folded, and they're just like staring out, basically waiting for me to come through the door. And the bed was made all in purple and black, and there was a ton of pillows stacked behind them. And there was also a whole bunch of vintage Garfield stuffed animals. I love Garfield and I love stuffed animals. I usually sleep with at least one stuffed animal because I really like stuffed animals. And that felt like like the essential oils, the massage, the stuffed animals. It felt like this dream entity was trying to make up a bunch of things that would lure me in or comfort me, things that I liked, so it could get me to let down my defenses. And then, I get in its face and I was like, who the fuck are you? And why are you here? Where's my lover? And I said their name. I'm like, where are they? Where are they? Why are you wearing their face? And they weren't talking. And so then I finally, I ripped open the covers and I said, get the fuck out of here. I was so mad. I was so mad that they were making me so terrified and that they were just doing all this awful stuff. And I had enough of them fucking with me. And then they got up and they were like this small, skinny, frail young girl, like someone in their early 20s with like pretty oily hair and really, really skinny. You could see the knots of her spine and her bones, but she still kind of had the face of my lover. And it was so scary. And she started turning more and more blue. And then she like came towards me and I grabbed her wrists or like her hands, so we were like clasping like this and we were like fighting. And um I was like, oh hell no, you're not gonna fucking fight with me. And I had a little bit of lucidity, enough to be like, I'm gonna win this fight. I'm much stronger than you because this is my dream. And so we were clasping hands and I spun her around so she was facing the other way. That's when I saw the knots of her spine. And um, she gained some strength for just a moment, but then I overpowered her and shoved her to the ground. And then, like, there was this strange moment, and I'm really struggling how to explain this. Dream logic is so strange because the things can, logic is A equals B. I mean, A equals A. A does not equal B, and A cannot equal A and B at the same time. So it is what it is. It ain't what it ain't, and it can't be what it is and ain't at the same time. That's logic in the world as we know it, in our reality. But in dreams, that's not how it is. So explaining that in a world where that kind of logic doesn't exist is really hard because we don't experience it. We don't have the words for it. So in this moment, this creature was this entity creature thing, but at the same time was also my lover's ex for a moment. And my lover's ex, like I said, we're all friends and they genuinely care about myself and my lover, as friends. And they were like, oh no, where is blank, my lover? And I kept shouting that, like, where are they, where are they? And then myself and the essence of my lover's ex came to this realization at the same time, and we both said it at the same time, even though I was fighting with the creature, and the creature also kind of realized it. Oh no, you're nothing but an hourglass. We said that, and then I dropped the creature, and then the creature like shattered and disappeared. And it really scared me because what the fuck do you mean you're nothing but an hourglass? Is my lover an hourglass? Is it just a matter of time before time runs out for them? And then I wake up and I am fucking terrified, and the motion detecting light keeps on going out, keeps on going on. And so I stand up and I look out the window and I immediately see a big giant possum. And as far as I can remember, correct me if I'm wrong, and you're seeing this and you are familiar with other symbolism of a possum, but possums symbolize death. And that was fucking terrifying. So I wake up from this dream of someone wearing my lover's face, then telling me that they are just an hourglass and their time is running out. And then when I wake up in the middle of the night, the first thing I fucking see is a possum, a symbol of death. I had to sleep with the lights on. It was awful. After that, though, to my surprise, I had a wonderful dream. It was actually one of the coolest dreams I've ever had. It started off as me visiting my parents, and they had moved to this new place. They moved into this really fancy mansion, and I went and visited them, and I tried to go somewhere, but then I tried to walk there and something happened, and there was like these people traveling in these bubbles that were supposed to be cars, and their bubbles crashed, and then I had to be a witness and tell the police what happened. And then I walked home, and then my parents were like, see, I told you shouldn't have gone out at night. And or I was walking home most of the way, and then my parents came and picked me up, and we were driving down the driveway, and they were like, see, told you, and we were right. And throughout the dream, I kept seeing, because it was dark, and I kept seeing the silhouette of this deer horn looking thing. And I was like, no way, there's couldn't be a deer horn there. But when we were almost back to the house, I said, hey, pull over. And I started getting more and more like directing in this dream, like, do this, do this, do this. No, stop. I don't want you to do that. Go away. Keep your distance from me. Hey, do that. Don't do this. It was great, especially with dreams about my parents. So being directional and setting boundaries and stuff was great. And so they pulled over, and I got this. I went and checked out the silhouette, and it turned out to be a big deer horn. And so I got it. I sat in the car, and then my dad said, oh, by the way, you have to, I think he said something like, take the garbage out to the end of the driveway before you leave for your party. And I'm like, I'm a middle-aged woman. You're not going to fucking tell me to do chores. And I was just like, ha ha ha. No, I'm not. And I could tell that he was kind of like testing me to see if he could, to see how much control he had over me. And I was just like, no, I'm not. So that was fucking great. And I was gaining more and more power. Then we get back to the house, and I'm looking at their house like, how'd you guys afford this? This is amazing. And then it became time for me to leave to this party. So the dream scene changed, and I parked my car in front of this apartment complex, and I started climbing these winding, weird, squiggly stairs, and I got to my friend Hank's apartment, and he was having a birthday party, and there was a bunch of people from my past, and one of them was singing a song with a guitar, and I was filming it with my cell phone, and we were eating, and it was actually it was the morning after the party, because I tried to get to that party the night before. That's where I was on my way to, but I missed it. I had to go home, and so I just showed up early in the morning when they were like eating breakfast, and everyone was just kind of like waking up and packing up to go home, because it was a party where there was lots of alcohol and stuff like that. So everyone stayed the night. Um, so I helped. I started. So uh, Hank started picking stuff up, and then I just got up and started like picking garbage up and putting in the kitchen and washing silverware and helping him clean up after his party, even though I wasn't there. And then I noticed a Christmas tree, like time kind of changed. I was like, oh, I guess it's around Christmas tree because you guys have, I mean, I guess it's around Christmas time because there's a Christmas tree with packages under it. And then there's these two little boys came from out of nowhere, and they had pajamas on and they were running around all excitedly. Um, and then there was this very slender young girl, and the children were hers. And then it became apparent that that was Hank's girlfriend. And I was like, oh, Hank was a past lover of mine and still someone like very dear to my heart. And I was like, oh, I'm happy that he's in this happy place, in this little house that's filled with happiness. Because children running around and laughing to me felt like it symbolized happiness, and fulfillment. So that was really good. And then my character, since arriving to that place, became more and more Mrs. Mabel. If you've seen The Marvelous Mrs. Mabel, um, she became more and more like that. Only it was, I think this character was from even further back in time, like late 30s, maybe very early 40s. And my hair became in this updo, and I had a little hat, and I had a pencil, like a knee-length pencil skirt, and a matching jacket and gloves. And then I was like, well, I'm leaving now, and goodbye. And I told everyone goodbye, and I took a doggy bag home, a doggy bag for my cats. And then there was this man that stood up and said, oh, I will escort you because you remind me of the type of woman that, I don't remember what he said. It was very interesting, though. Something about how I should always have a man on my arm, or always would want to have a man on my arm. I don't remember if he said should or want. And maybe he said suitor, or something about it being proper for a woman like me to be escorted, something like that. It was really formal and really super vintage. And but my character, I was delighted and surprised, and I said, oh, okay, thank you, even though his face did kind of startle me. I was like, oh, all right. So we leave, and then the stairs are different. They're metal, and they're black and red, and they are just super confusing everywhere. And there was a few times where I went to like this dead end staircase, and the stairs are outside, so I'm not like inside of a building. They're metal stairs between buildings that are just, they're everywhere. And I'm genuinely grateful for his help. And I was just thinking, oh, I said to him, I'm so grateful that you are escorting me because I would have gotten completely lost. And he smiled at me, and we make some small talk during our journey. And then we get to the bottom of the stairs, and it's in this garage. And the bottom of the stairs is on this strange, really old school rocket. And I'm thinking, how the heck do I get down? I'm in a skirt and heels. And there's a bunch of women mechanics that look like the We Can Do It lady. And they're all working on these vintage cars, and it's dark and dank and oily in this garage, and chaotic, and there's sparks flying and like here and there. And I turn around because I think he's going to follow me down and escort me to the car, but he's like, this is as far as I can go. And he says something about like he's not going to see me tomorrow or something like that. And I go, oh, that's a real shame because I would genuinely like to see you again. And by the time we got to that point, I had actually developed some romantic feelings for him. And I was like, I really like you. He's like kind of deformed and not what this character is used to being called on by. Like she's used to being called by men in suits and handsome, sturdy young men that with well-to-do jobs and whatnot. And this guy is, I mean, he's wearing nice clothes and he's dressed like a sensible, maybe even professional person from the late 30s, but his eyes are uneven and one is smaller than the other, and he's got like a kind of a crooked jaw, and he walks kind of funny. So you look at him and you're kind of taken aback, but I kind of fell in love with him. He was amazing. He was smart. He was caring. He was genuine, and just all the things that would make a good man. And so I was like, I really hope I see you again. So I we say goodbye, and I struggle down this rocket thing on these little teeny tiny, this little ladder rung thing. It wasn't really a ladder, but it was kind of a ladder. And then all the mechanics put their hands on their hips and they're like, really? You didn't take the fucking stairs beside the rocket, you dumbass? And I was like, oh, I didn't see them. I literally don't think that they existed. Hiccup. And they're like, you do not belong here. And I very much didn't. I was in white gloves and all the things, and I was very proper looking, and they were mechanics, and this garage was huge, and to one side there was tables, and even farther off in the distance there was a little set of bleachers, and there was this little stage. The bleachers were like the premium seating. It was closest to the stage. And then the barrels with the makeshift seats and the pieces of theater seats, just like a random set of 2 or 3 seats here and one here and one here. They were farther away. They were the cheaper seats. And most of the people that were sitting there, like the vast majority was men, and most of them were soldiers in vintage soldier uniforms. And the pedestrians that were there, they were still mostly men, but the men and women there were very much dressed like riffraff and floozies and drunks and people you'd see at some kind of sketchy speakeasy. And I look around and then I look to the other side, and there are these very tall, beautiful showgirls, and they're dressed in this like they're like kind of like a mock lederhosen. It's definitely a showgirl outfit with vintage sequins and feathers, and their whole body, all their bodies were covered in glitter, and they had amazing boobs and cleavage and awesome legs. And they all had either red, white, or blue fishnets, and they were going to do a show, and I was bedazzled by them. I was just like, wow. And I decided, you know what? I want to see these women. I want to see them dance. And I tried to. People were trying to shoo me away. The mechanics were trying to get me out. There was 2 madams that were in charge of the showgirls. They were trying to shoo me away, and they're like, "Hey, lady, get the fuck out of here. This ain't your kind of place." And I was like, "Who are you to tell me where I'm supposed to be?" But I was very polite and just kind of like about it, like very Miss Mabel. And then so they got up on stage off in the distance, and the stadium or the bleacher seats were all taken, so they said fine, it's 5 cents person. So go get your 5 cents over there. And there was on this wine barrel, there was this large pink cast iron pig. And you put your nickel in the mouth, and then you grab the tail and you crank it down, farther up, and then back it down to its original spot, and then you would get a ticket. So I did that. I cranked it down, up, back to its spot, and then there was all these coins that started spitting out. There was a dime, and then a penny, and then another dime, and then a whole bunch of pennies came out, and everyone was like, what the fuck, how did you do that? And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And I started gathering them, and I was like, that's neat. And I got my ticket, and they were just all kind of like, they were kind of mad, but they just let me go on. I sat down. There was one man kind of making eyes with me, and he had one empty seat, and he was also like not very cute, but for some reason that was a comfort to me. Everyone else that was like trying to be too charming, I'm like, no way, you have nefarious intentions, I'm sure. But by the time I like wedged my way through the crowd, the man that I was going to sit by, the seats around him were taken. So there was this set of 3 old movie seats that were just out by themselves, and there was a man sitting on the farthest end of one, and so I sat down on the other side, so there was a seat between us, and he was looking at me and like trying to be all charming and stuff, and then he scoots over and sits on the other in the seat between us, so he's close to us, and I put my hand on his chest and I push him back, and I go, I'd actually rather sit by myself, thank you. And he was so sad. He was just like deflated, and I was like, don't be sad, dear. And I said something that made him kind of like perk up, but I was also very, very strict in setting my boundaries. And then here's where the cool part comes. The girls get done dancing, and the stage is over here. I'm over here. And between the stage and the riffraff seating, there's this giant wheel. There's a round platform, a small round platform, enough for probably half a dozen people to wedge shoulder to shoulder on. And that is spinning one way. And then there is another part to this stage. There's another circle underneath it, and it's spinning another way, and it's wide enough to set there's things like fish bowls, candle holders, dishes, and so on, things like that all around it. And it's spinning counterclockwise, and the other stage is spinning clockwise. And then all of a sudden there's this announcer guy, and he's got this crusty old scary makeup on, and he looks like he's on drugs, and he's just the perfect creepy Gotham City circus announcer. And he's like, all right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. And the crowd gets all excited. Apparently this is a thing. It's a coin toss. You take your pennies and you try to toss them in these cups and these candle holders and fish tanks. And there's all these little obstacles. Like there's something hanging over the fish tank. So most pennies are deflected. And I can't get close, so I just decide to stand on top of my seat and kind of look around, and then I go, oh yeah, that's right, that strange pig ticket dispenser gave me a whole bunch of pennies. So I opened my purse, and I'm pawing around, and there's a whole bunch of cash in my purse. I'm like, oh, that's strange, cool. And I get the pennies, and I have a handful of pennies. And I start, and I elbow the lady next to me. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna like watch this. I'm gonna get it. And all the people are already kind of eyeballing me because, like I said, everybody there is mostly wearing dark colored clothing that's really drabby and grungy, or they're in military uniforms. And I'm like this bright person with these pristine white gloves. And I take my penny and I toss it and I miss. And he's like, "Oh, better luck next time. This isn't really a ladies' game, or like a gentle ladies' game or something like that." And I do it again and I miss, and I do it again and I miss. And I go, "Oh, don't worry, I'm definitely going to get it this time." And I was not even vaguely put off by missing all those ones. I was just like, "Ha, this is fun." And then I go plink and it lands. And then they're like, "Oh my gosh." And everyone's missing. And then I go, "Hey, watch this." And I go blink, blink, blink. And there's all these various noises of the pennies I'm tossing going into different jars. And most of them are the most difficult jars that have no pennies in them. Ones that are like huge prizes of a fuck ton of cash. And people start getting kind of mad, especially the announcer starts getting really mad. And then he makes the thing, he's like, "All right, you guys, level 2, um, and if you dare to risk all your prizes, why don't you try it now?" And he was implying that if I miss these prizes, then the prizes I won previously will get taken away. And I was like, "No problem. It's just a game to me." And so I start throwing the pennies and sinking them all, and I won. I won a whole bunch of cash. And it was, I wish I could explain better how this place looked. It was so interesting, very eclectic and cluttered, and with things and people. Um, so I went to this desk where there was this really grumpy, funny looking old guy with like a giant nose and giant ears with hair growing out of his ears. And I said, "Okay, I'd like my winnings, please." And he's like looking at me, making eye contact, shining a glass, and was like, "Fuck you." And he goes and he gets a $20 bill and he slaps it on the table. And he goes, "I think he was smoking a cigar too." "Yes." And he goes, "We can only give you a promise note for the rest of it. This is all I can give you tonight." And I go, "Bullshit." And he goes, "I would like all of it now, please." And he looks at me and he's like all mad, and he rolls his eyes, and then he goes and gets about $200 because I had won a couple $100 with all of this penny tossing. And he looks at me and he's counting it out, and then he slams it on the table. And then I ask him for ones, and I said I would like one so I could tip the girls, please. And he squints at me again, and he swipes the $20 bill away, and he goes and counts ones out, and he hands it to me. And then I go back, and on my way out, I tip all of the dancers. I even tip the two madams, thinking that I'm like, okay, I'm going to tip all these people, and next time I come, they're going to treat me right. And I was very happy, and it changed the attitude completely of all the people that were like being mean to me earlier in the dream. And they're all like, "Bye, we can't wait for you to come back." we'll save a special spot for you. And yeah, that was a dream. It was cool. All right, that was it. Dang, it's a long entry. All right, see ya.